Welcome back. It's 7:26. Now, during an illustrious Formula One career, he was crowned world champion not once, not twice, but 3 times, and he achieved a total of 27 Grand Prix victories. But now, Sir Jackie Stewart is driven to find a cure for dementia, following his wife's diagnosis back in 2014.
His charity, Race Against Dementia, will today get scientists and motor industry experts to work together in an attempt to speed up a breakthrough in the battle against the devastating disease. And Sir Jackie joins us now, along with Dr. Claire Durrant, who is from the charity. It's fantastic to see you both. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. It's a hugely important challenge. And Sir Jackie Stewart, what you're trying to inject into this is a sort of sense of that Formula One competitiveness, isn't it? Which you're hoping will just sort of accelerate. I mean, I don't mean to use the puns, but you are literally trying to accelerate this race.
Yes, that's our biggest challenge, because for over 40 years, the medical profession have failed either to find preventive medicine or corrective medicine for dementia. And more people die of dementia in this country, for example, than any other illness. And that is a ridiculous situation. But I think one of the worst parts of it is that it's a long-term illness, and many people live for a fairly long time, and few families can afford to look after their loved ones at home because they've got to go out and make a living to feed the family. And therefore, we're finding people not being able to even afford going to homes on the issue. Because when somebody's got dementia like Helen has, and Helen was diagnosed some 6 years ago in Rochester, Minnesota at the Mayo Clinic, and now her condition is worsening all of the time, for communication, for walking, for sleeping, for all of the things that most people cannot do. I'm fortunate that I can afford to look after Helen in the manner that I am, but so many other people around the world, because it's a global problem. And the terrible thing is that 1 in 3 people that are born today are going to have dementia, and we don't have a cure. So we're using Formula One, which has got probably faster problem solving than any other business or activity in the world. So we're deeply involved, for example, with Red Bull and McLaren, which has been tremendous. And yesterday we spent a fantastic day with Dyson. You know, the Dyson organization is fantastic, and he's a wonderful man. So people like that are helping us, but we need more help, because for every patient in cancer, for research, 1 in 4 only are being researching in dementia, and we need to change that.
All right, so Jackie, I just want to say I think this is a fantastic idea. I really do. I'm actually a patron on Alzheimer's Society and have been for many years, and I think this is exactly the kind of impetus that we need, because there is a sense, I mean, there's a long way to go still, but there is a sense that we are beginning to approach brand new knowledge in our understanding of Alzheimer's and therefore its treatment. So, Dr. Claire, let's bring you in here. We wouldn't be having this campaign that you're organising now if you didn't think there was hope. So give us a hopeful message if you can. How much closer are we now to some kind of understanding of either holding back Alzheimer's or actually curing it than we were, say, 5 years ago or 10 years ago?
I mean, the progress we've made over the last few years has been enormous. We now understand a lot more about the risk factors that mean someone's more likely to develop dementia, for example. I mean, Alzheimer's Research UK think that 1 in 3 cases of dementia might actually be preventable with simple changes to lifestyle, such as not smoking, keeping your heart healthy, and keeping your brain active and keeping social. So these small changes that we can make a really big difference for people's dementia risk later in life. And as we've seen from the new FDA drug approvals, we're making breakthroughs all the time in actually understanding how the disease works. And we're getting better and better technologies, and charities like Race Against Dementia, and partnerships with the Dyson Foundation and Formula One, we're really starting to get a grip on what might be causing the disease. But as you say, we've got a long way to go, but I'm certainly hopeful that we're going to see real changes for people living with this horrible disease, certainly in our lifetimes.
So, Jackie, your wonderful wife, you've been married, almost 60 years, and you worked alongside each other. You know, she's been critical support, obviously love, and a hugely successful and loving partnership. But one of the cruelties of dementia is that those family ties, those bonds become very strained, don't they? There's no lack of love there, but memory loss it can be just so utterly devastating. I mean, what was the impact on the family of her diagnosis?
It's a great challenge for a family, and the one thing you've got to do is understand that suddenly someone that you know deeply suddenly can't remember something that, for example, would be literally 3 to 4 seconds following the conversation, that they would be having no recall of what went on in that conversation. That's very easy to get upset about. You've got to learn to be able to give your client, your customer, your loved ones, in my case, to be able to understand how this painful experience is, because Helen doesn't know she's got dementia. She doesn't understand that she can't have 3 days at Silverstone coming up, or down to Goodwood and places like that. Why am I not going? I'm going to tomorrow to Wimbledon, and she doesn't understand why she can't come, because she can't do the steps, and frankly she may have to go to the loo more than once. All of these things are things that come about and doesn't seem to be important until it happens to a family. And then for a family to be able to look after their loved one, in my particular case, because my motor racing provided me with sufficient funds that I can care for Helen, but we've got 24-hour care for Helen. We've got 7 neuro nurses, 2 at a time only, naturally, but it's 24 hours a day. Very few people can afford that. And there's not enough homes, for example, of the level that's going to make them feel comfortable for what is left, because people with dementia can last a long time. They're not just it's not a short illness, it's a very long illness. And it's a very expensive illness to look after people, because the homes themselves have to be funded. So it's really a bigger illness than most people seem to realise. So much money has gone towards cancer, and I'm not trying to reduce that, but we need to recognise that there needs to be more research done, you know, and this is what we're trying to do on a global basis. We've got 3 PhDs in Australia, we've got 2 in America, well, 2 in Rochester, Minnesota, Mayo Clinic, 1 in Florida. We've got them all over the world now. And the operation in Edinburgh is one that's been going faster than any other, because that's where we started.
Well, that's good to hear.
It's a terribly big challenge, and it takes a lot of money.
That's good to hear, Sir Jackie. But look, I want to ask you for some personal advice for some of our viewers. Some of our viewers today, there are going to be couples who are going to have that appointment, the kind of appointment that you and your wife had in 2014. They're going to go in and they're going to get bad news. That's going to happen today. People are going to be told that one of the partnership, has developed dementia, whether it's Alzheimer's or another form of dementia. What advice could you give them? Because you had that horrible meeting, 7 years ago now. What advice could you give them to cope with that dreadful information? How did you deal with it?
To give an awful lot of love to Helen, to make her feel comfortable, to continue to make her feel comfortable at home. She, of course, recognises myself at this stage, and we've got 2 children, we've got 9 grandchildren. They all love their grandmother. But of course, their grandmother can't go and see them as often as that. So therefore, for a family, it's an educational thing. And there's not enough help being made on that alone. Race Against Dementia is busy trying to do that. The James Dyson meeting that we had yesterday on this subject is a broader issue. We've got to look at that. And the medical profession over 40 years have not found a cure for it. So we've got to do 2 or 3 things. One of them is to find a cure. The other thing is to help those folk who have dementia to know a better way of continuing to live as a family unit. It's a very big challenge for a family.
I think your answer really there to my question was that the family rallies around, and that's what I hear again and again in these cases. Very quick question to Dr. Clare before we leave this. Talking about a cure, you've actually, this campaign that you're running, you've been given £500,000 now to investigate the role of protein in dementia and Alzheimer's patients, protein deposits in the brain. Very briefly, Dr. Clare, is this a potential for a significant breakthrough?
Absolutely. So we know that proteins accumulate in large clumps in Alzheimer's disease brain. What we don't know is why that's damaging to the brain cells that cause the disease we see in Alzheimer's. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to understand why that kills nerve cells and if we can stop it. And if we can find out why that kills them, we have a really good chance of developing therapeutics. And we have a fantastic team surrounding me. We're doing collaborations with drug discovery institutes, and it's work funded by Sir Jackie and other foundations and donations from members of the public that are really going to be driving forward towards a better future for people living with dementia.
We thank you both for your time. We thank you both for this fantastic campaign. I think it's a brilliant, inspired idea to, as you say, to use the discipline of Formula One to chase down Alzheimer's. It's such a good idea. We wish you the very best of luck.